Every day, aspiring musicians dream of getting out of their garages and taking their songs on the road for the world to hear. But not everyone's successful at making a living as a gigging musician. There's a right way and a wrong way to navigate the music business, and whether you're looking to book your first gig or plotting an extensive world tour, this show will help you demystify the live music industry by providing first-hand insights from artists and professionals who are doing it at the highest levels. Hey there, I'm Tony Neely, and this is the Book Your Band podcast. All right, welcome to this episode of the Book Your Band podcast. Today we're here with Mr. Drew Small from Brddg. Brddg is an awesome name. Already talking with Drew. You are such a cool, nice guy. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out and talk for a little bit.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
So what does Brddg do? Cool name, cool logo. I love, band's best friend, but what is it that you do?
So we are a small music marketing agency that helps most of the time anything to do with social media, whether it's paid advertising or figuring out strategy or managing your content. And then we also do a lot of like playlist pitching. So we basically, to make it simple, is we try to help people grow their Spotify, their YouTube, or their social media in some way, shape, or form.
I am a young musician. I've written some songs. I want to start building a fan base. What can I start doing before I come to you?
I think there's a lot that artists can do before they hire out marketing agencies. I think the first thing is to just start learning and to be a student of social media. And so like one of the first things we do with all of our strategy clients is we give them like weekly homework. Like you should be spending time every week going on to social media and looking for other bands, not just in the genre that you're going to be in, but in any genre. What are other artists doing with social media that you like, that resonates with you, that you think you would be able to also do similar to? Really spend time studying how this thing works because it changes daily almost. And I think some people that's really stressful. For me, that's my favorite part, is that this is a Rubik's Cube that's constantly unsolving itself. And so before you start reaching out to a marketing agency and doing that, figuring out what you like, what you don't like, what are some other bands that you want to be similar to? And then also while all that's happening, really start thinking about like, okay, you want to grow an audience, but what does that really mean? Can you define that really specifically? Because I think we have artists come to us a lot and we'll say, well, how can I help you? What's the problem? Where are you headed? And how can I help you get from wherever you are now to either all the way there or closer towards it? And a lot of artists are just like, well, I want to blow up. I want my songs to be huge. And that's not a specific, definable, measurable goal. And so
I want to be awesome and be rich.
Yeah. And it's
Make
like,
it so.
we all do. And if you just want to be awesome, you probably already are. But like when you really stop and think, like, especially if you're younger, like one of the things I wish someone would have told me when I was younger as a musician is like, it's okay to like figure out how much money you want to make a year and then figure out how to build a business that will earn that much money for you. And it may take you 3 or 4 years to build that business, but a lot of musicians don't even have a monetary goal with how much they want to earn. And that can be a really big inhibitor to growth because you're just out there and it's like going to watch a bunch of 4-year-olds play soccer where it's super cute, but they're just running up and down all the field all day and no one knows if they scored a goal, but they hopefully had a good time while they were there. And that's great. And I think a lot of musicians, that's what they want. That's what, that's all they really want out of their music is to like, just go out there and have fun with it. But if you're coming and you're hiring a music marketing agency, like you're trying to build a music business and having at least some idea of like what your specific business model is going to be is really in the process of like engaging us.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. It makes me think of two things. One of my mantras is always anyone potentially, if you put the work into it, can be a professional musician. If you're willing to play every brunch, every dinner special, every coffee shop, you can make a living. That doesn't mean you're going to be a rock star though. And so I think having those realistic metrics that I think that's a really good point to make that, okay, you say you want to start playing out, you say you want to get out of your bedroom and start making money. Let's set some realistic, smart goals here. Let's set some benchmarks. That way
Yeah.
it's measurable along the way rather than just saying, I want to be awesome. I want to get rich. If you don't
Yeah.
know where you're going, you're never going to get there. And so
Yeah.
I like that idea of going ahead and setting those monetary goals early on.
Yeah. Monetary goals, or even like, hey, I want to get out of my basement. I want to start playing in real life. It's like, well, how many shows is that?
Hmm.
Right. Because I think anybody who's gone out and played a show is I've played tons of shows in my life, and some of them I made money and some of them it cost me money. But if you're a new musician, you've never played a show and you don't know what to look for, going out there, and even if you lose money, I think it's okay because of the gained knowledge from experience of going out to the show and learning. Like there's just things that you learn by going out there and recognizing like 90% of success is just going to be consistently doing the most obvious thing for an uncommonly long period of time.
Hmm.
And so being okay to go out there and try and show up to a show and lose money and be like, man, it cost me more money in gas to get out here than I made. Great. That's a really important lesson to take with you as an artist and figure out like, okay, well, obviously I want to do this, but I need to come home with more money than I came in. How do I do that? Right? There's no such thing as failure. There's just feedback. And I think if artists can take that understanding of like, there's no way to lose. The only way you lose is by not trying. But everything is an opportunity to learn something new and to get better and get more experience and take that experience to improve the next show or the next song or the next single release or whatever the next thing is. And to develop this understanding that we're not competing with other musicians. We're just competing with ourselves. We're trying to be better than we were the last time we stepped up to the mic to do the thing, whether that's playing the local wedding circuit or releasing singles every month or whatever it is. Like you're really just competing with yourself. And the goal here is to learn and grow and take every chance to like get new learning into your brain in that process.
So it sounds like that is some feedback you've given quite a bit as a professional because that was very cleanly spoken. So
Yes.
is that, do you feel that that's something even more established artists need to be reminded of quite frequently that you're working with?
Yeah, I think so. Like there is I I love this like I think the more I deal with successful artists or successful business owners, the more I run into this mindset of like there's no failure.
Mm.
There's no way to screw this up. The only way we screw this up is if we don't do anything at all. And finding this freedom of being willing to take risks and to make mistakes and to take like the sure I may have lost like I was with a client today kind of doing some consulting. They had bought a bunch of merch and it just hasn't sold.
Hmm.
And we're trying to figure out, well, why hasn't it sold? And for them, the bottom line is the merch is just not cool, right? And they spent $3,500 on a bunch of t-shirts that
So much to wear.
it probably won't sell, right? And that sucks. But like for them, they get to go and take the hard lesson of like, okay, well, I need to hire a graphic designer next time
Hmm.
to like really design merch that people want. And so, yes, it was a $3,500 lesson, but hopefully, ideally, that's going to help them make more money in the long term because they were willing to make eye contact with, like, it's so easy to just blame things that are out of our control in
Mhm.
all of this of like, oh, well, COVID shut everything down, so we didn't sell any t-shirts or, fill in the blank. The algorithm really just doesn't like me or whatever. And it's like, well, okay, but let's look at what we can control. Let's look at what we did do. Did you hire a designer? No, I did these all myself. Okay. Why would anyone wear this shirt? Well, because they like me. It's like, okay. And we went into a long conversation of like, I don't wear my Beatles t-shirt because I hope Paul McCartney gets the bag, right? Like I'm wearing a Beatles t-shirt because of what it says about me to other people when I wear it.
Mhm.
And so getting to go and look at that, like understanding why people buy stuff and putting that artist in a position where like you're running a small business, you're not running a you charity where people are trying to be charitable towards you. yes, people want to support small independent artists, but they also want the support of those small independent artists, especially if it's turning into like physical goods, turn into something that when they wear that shirt, it says something about them to the people around them that they want to be saying.
So I'm assuming because of the world that you work in, you're familiar, Donald Miller's story brand, all that.
Yeah,
So it sounds like you're saying basically what Donald Miller says is make your customer the hero in their own story.
100%. I mean, even in music, I think there are very, very few artists that can successfully pull off being the hero in the first place. Right? The Dua Lipa, the David Bowie, the Katy Perry, these like iconic superstars. Those are very, very few and far between. But the Bob Dylans, the Paul McCartneys, these are storytellers that are empowering the listener. Like they're just as, if not more successful than the superstars, because it's at the end of the day, like I love the way that Donald phrases that, is that everybody's the main character in their own story. And as much as we'd like to, like, it just takes a very special person to be a superstar where they are the hero all the time.
Yeah.
And even if that person is the hero, their merchandise, like let's take Taylor Swift, for example. If you go look at Taylor Swift's merchandise, like people are going to wear Taylor Swift merchandise based on the era that merch is from, because of what that era says about them, about who they are.
Same reason fish heads, we wear old tour shirts to show, hey,
yeah,
I was at such and such tour.
Yeah, we all want to, like, as consumers, we're all wanting to buy, like, we want to spend our money. We work hard on it, and we want to spend it on things that make our lives better and make us look and feel cooler. And I think that's really important to make eye contact with, that, like, a marketing agency, like, I can't make people want something that they don't already want, right? I can't, if it's a bad t-shirt or a bad song or bad music video, I can get people to put their eyes on it as a marketing agent, but I can't force them to want it, right? It has to be speaking to an existing desire that that person already has inside of them. Whether that desire is to look cooler or to be seen as a more educated person, or what, like, fill in the blank. What is the desire that that person has? You're helping that person fulfill that desire with, whether it's your song or your merch or coming to your show. There's a need that they have. And I think artists will be more successful the more they think of themselves and their music as a product and not just as some sort of like artistic expression, which I think, like, to go on a rabbit hole for a second, like, I don't think that everything, this is my controversial opinion. This is my hot take that I don't think everybody agrees with.
Bring it. We're all about hot takes here.
I don't think that everything you make is art. I think that everything you make as a musician is creative expression. But I think that art is the intersection between commerce and creative expression, or community and creative expression is probably more capitalistic way to say it, is when art becomes art, when it becomes shared. And I think that just because there's a difference between, like, I put macaroni on a paper plate, like, that to me isn't art. That's creative expression. I'm taking a feeling, an emotion, a thing, and I'm using a medium to creatively express that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it becomes valuable art, because yes, if my child brings me their macaroni plate, I am super excited about it, and therefore it is art. But if I brought it to anyone else, they would be like, this is garbage and it's going in the trash. And it's not art at that point. It's just a creative expression. And so artists need to become more comfortable living in that intersection between creative expression and commerce, where we understand this is a product. The show is an experience, right? It is, I'm going to buy tickets to go to a show because I want to feel something, right? What is that thing that they're feeling? I'm going to buy a t-shirt, yes, because I want to support the band, but also, like, if the merch is garbage, I'm not going to buy it, right? I'm going to click on an ad on Facebook because the picture is cool or the video is great. And I'm going to continue to listen to that song because it's good. But it all boils down to, if we're not, this like Rick Rubin stuff where the audience comes last, I think in draft one, that's totally fair. the audience comes last. But in your subsequent drafts that you're working on towards presenting something to other people, if you're not considering your audience first, I think you're going to have a really hard time, because now more than ever, it's not like we have a supply chain issue on music.
Mhm. It's
There's
definitely
more,
more oversaturated now than
yeah, there's more good music and more good social media content now than there's ever been before. And it's only getting more and more. And so we have this, like, as an artist, really what you're trying to get as a musician, whether it's a live show or a streaming number or a music video that you put on YouTube, you're really asking for people to give you their one non-renewable resource, which is their time. And if they're coming last in all of your considerations, like it's going to show, first of all. And people are so savvy today. And there are so many creators out there that are putting the audience first and are really thinking about the audience first. Again, I'm not saying like in the first draft, you don't just ignore them
Mm.
and make what you want, right? Creatively express yourself, put that macaroni on the plate. But there comes a point in time in the subsequent rounds of revisions where we have to think about who would, in their right mind, give their time to this, and what are they getting for that, right? What's the feeling? What's the emotion? If we think about like what is music, like music is probably the widest used drug on planet Earth, right? We're using it to alter our mood, our mindset, our atmosphere, right? It's your music in and of itself isn't, there's no song on earth that's a 24/7 song, right? There's a specific intersection in time and space that your song makes the most sense for. And we've got to consider our audience and like, when is that moment? When are like, how often is like, I think the other thing is like thinking through like how often is that moment happening? Are you writing a song, to talk in church language? Are you writing a song that really just works on Christmas? That can be a really effective strategy, but Christmas comes but once a year.
Mhm.
Whereas am I writing a song for every single day? Are we doing like a lo-fi beat, which is a passive listening song that ends up being on 7 days a week? What is that moment? And it's thinking about your audience first. If you're trying to grow an audience, they have to be a priority in what you're offering them and what that looks like. That ultimately, if you do what people like, then they're going to hang out and be friends and do cool things with you.
So
It's not just you.
within that model, not intending this to be a loaded question, but to be successful today in music, is there any room left for artistic integrity, or is it just be a product?
Yeah, I mean, yes, in the first drafts, right? Absolutely. But when we, like a great example of it is like I was talking with somebody last week who's just like over the idea of putting out single after single after single. And they're like, I just really miss the full album days.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, let's stop and think for a second about what a full album is. It's about 12 songs. It's about an hour and a half hour of music. Why is that an album? It's because that's how much music fits on a vinyl, right? So our concept that we're pining for in terms, and that we all say is like the pinnacle of artistic integrity, and we want to go back to these full collective works, is really just a byproduct of capitalism in the first place.
22 minutes aside.
Yeah, that's it. And so it's like now we have singles because we have an algorithmically based ecosystem online. And so it doesn't mean that our artistic integrity goes away in that process. It means that as business people, it's our job to understand how do we make money, right? It's through streaming, it's through shows, it's through merch. And we have to understand that if we want to make money, then we need people to give it to us. And if they're going to give it to us, then we have to give them something that they want to give us money for. And it doesn't mean that the artistic integrity goes away. In fact, I think it's Andy Warhol, because the most creative thing anybody can do is business. I need to find the quote, but like, I think there's so much room for creativity and artistic expression, even just in how you develop your business model and how you think about your people and what you offer them. And it's not all about just like sleazy sales funnels and tricking people, right? Like
There
that's
are
not,
three secrets of booking a gig.
yeah, it's, I think at the end of the day, like there's so much magic in the fact that like our job as musicians in this space is to inspire people, not just with our songs, but to pull out their wallets and give us their money and show up at the shows and engage with the songs as well. And that takes a lot of creative expression and it takes artistic integrity because I think people are really sophisticated today and they have a very finely tuned BS gauge
Mm.
and they can tell when you're being fake and they can tell when it's just all manufactured for the most part. And like so it doesn't, I don't think it throws out artistic integrity, but I think that there's a lot of like again, I have so much respect for Rick Rubin, but also like he came to success in a very different era of music business.
Mm.
And it's so different now. And it wasn't ever as saturated for him as it is for us now. And so we can't base our chapter 1 off Rick's chapter 40.
Yeah.
Like it's just not fair. And I think it's disingenuine to put so much like lore into this like, oh well, artists should just create whatever they want. And if people don't like it, then it's their fault for not liking it. Because what I see the most is artists going and making whatever they want and then the market really not being interested in it
Mm-hmm.
or it being in a, it's like very seldom do people really want full like concept albums, right? Like that doesn't mean that concept albums won't work, but more often than not, I've seen what sounds like a great concept album come and go and be a pretty abject failure, mostly just because people don't have the attention span to give something an hour and a half of their time
Mm-hmm.
all in
Especially
one day.
when we're living in the frequent dopamine hit, 3 seconds
Yeah.
and move on.
Yeah. And so it would be nice, but the reality of life is we are in this like TikTok short form content era and I can't change that. But what I can do is I can accept the reality that I am existing in right now and create a business model that merges with that. And it still is going to require me as an artist to be true to myself.
Mm.
But I still I can't have a 17-minute long song. That's just bad business in and of itself too. If I'm only getting paid, like if you're fish, yeah, you can
You've
get
been
away
doing
with
it
it.
for
But
40
like,
years. People expect it. So
yeah, but if we're living in I get a half a penny for every time when one of my songs gets streamed era, and there are only 1,440 minutes in a given day, the longer my song is, the less money it's able to earn today.
yeah,
Period.
which I mean goes back to the old radio mindset. 3 minutes and out. So
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it sucks. And some people are gonna make longer songs, and that's fine. And we see that like in like modern worship, like we have 8-minute, 10-minute songs. But the thing that we hear from DSPs like Spotify and Apple is like, can you please make your song shorter?
hmm.
Like this is very, very difficult. And again, it doesn't mean you can't have an 18-minute version of a song that you only do live and you use as an opportunity to convince people to come to your live show. Like, hey, we have this 18-minute experience with this song that you guys love. Come to our show and see it live. And that's like the only place that people can see it. Now you're creating this exclusivity and there's like an incentive for people to come and experience something they can't get anywhere
The
else.
FOMO of, oh man,
Yeah.
they're going to do so again, my favorite band's Fish. And so I know you said you've gone to Fish shows. So I don't know if you followed what they did for New Year's this year, but they busted out a full game henge.
Yes.
First time it's been played. Those of you who don't know who Fish is, nerds, welcome to the obsession. But it was the first time that they had played this entire suite of music in 29 years, let alone
Yeah.
playing it, the suite of music in 29 years. They did a full on like Broadway production with animatronics and flying
Incredible.
birds and Broadway actors and dancing lizards and all this crazy stuff. And it broke the internet for the fan base because there was so much FOMO that there was this experience
Yeah.
and we weren't in the room for it. And so how can a younger musician start building that kind of passion among fans where fans care what they're doing live, that fans
Yeah.
care the difference between what's on their demo versus what they're doing, you know, at a gig. From your perspective, another way of putting it, how do we get more people to actually enjoy the macaroni on the paper plate?
Yeah. I would say the number one thing that artists skip out on that would do this a lot is commenting on other people's stuff outside of their ecosystem. Like social media is a superpower, and most new artists are just not, you're not going to break without it. I don't, they're very, very, I will never say never on anything. I think leaving room for an impossible thing is always a good thing to do.
Hmm.
But by and large, most artists are going to break their way into the world through social media. And it is an inherently social place. And most musicians only post on their social media and maybe interact with their friends
Mm-hmm.
and then wonder why no one cares about their content. And the reality is that you've got to go out there and be friends with other people online and comment on other artists, on other creators, on other comedians, on other brands, on other content, and spend time just interacting with, like, back in the day, you had to do something called work the room,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where when you would go to a gig, you would have to like smile and shake hands and be nice to every single person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that as modern musicians because we're not in the room very often, except for Instagram or TikTok or whatever your platform of choice is. That's the room now. And so with our social media strategy clients, we're giving them daily, like, you have a job of about 30 to 60 minutes a day where your marketing job, and it's not all at once, it's 5 minutes here, it's 10 minutes there, is to literally go out and comment and interact with other people on the internet outside of your own ecosystem.
Mm.
And that will then, they're having a meaningful social interaction with you online, and it's piquing their curiosity, and they're coming in and they're seeing your content. And because they feel like they've been seen by you and they're connected to you because you are seeing them and connecting with them, they start to care about your content. And it's not something that you have to do forever and ever and ever, but like, this year, over the last year and a half, I should say, we helped one of our clients go from, literally, they had 700 Instagram followers when we started, to they're at 853,000 today.
Mm.
That's from June of 22 till January of 20, I guess we're in 2024.
Mm.
A lot of that was, there was a long period of time of, like, I think that they're like 17 and 18 years old, homeschool kids. They've got plenty of time. So they spent 2 or 3 or 4 hours every single day, just dropping comments everywhere they could go. And I'm not talking like emoji only comments. Like, good internet commenting is kind of like a fart. Like, if you have to force it, it's probably pretty crappy. And like, go out there and actually watch somebody else's video. Go out there and leave a comment that would be replyable to. Don't just put like, "This was awesome." How's a creator going to reply to that? Thank you. That's not a conversation. I mean, go out there and watch somebody's cover and be like, "I really like how you put you arranged this version." Or, "It was really clever of you to blend the bridge of that song with this." Or what, like, really watch the content and give it,
Legitimate feedback.
legitimate feedback, and encourage. Or if like, one of the profiles that we manage is an artist that creates lo-fi music that takes the streaming revenue from that music and plants native pollinator habitats.
Okay.
And so they're all over, like, environmentally friendly accounts and their content. And one of the most effective growth comments for them was, there's an account called Texas Bee Works. It's this lady who, like, has this very calm voice, and she narrates videos of her collecting beehives from the wild. Like, people call her and go, "There's a beehive in my shed. Can you come get it?"
I actually
She's
think I've
all good.
seen some of her stuff. Yeah.
And so all the time we have this account go in there, and people will be asking comments about bees. And because this account makes music that benefits pollinators, and they basically are trying to find people who are environmentally conscious as their fan base, they'll go in there and people will ask like, well, how is she not getting stung? And then it's like, that account will just put a very helpful reply of like, well, most bees aren't very, aggressive, and they're, actually a very playful species. And you just add really interesting, it's like you're replying to other people's questions even.
Mm.
And that one comment, like, I want to say it's got 35 or 40,000 likes on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's garnered probably 3,000 or 4,000 followers for that brand from that one comment. And because people are like, oh, this person's really insightful, I want to know more about it. And they go through to the profile, and the profile's optimized. They can really quickly figure out like, oh, they make music for people like for pollinating, people who love plants, or what, I forget what the bio is.
So how do you walk the line between, obviously you are contributing to a community, but then how do you get them to click over to actually follow? Because I know so many Reddit threads and Facebook groups and stuff, they're anti self-promotion. So you're commenting.
You just don't promote. You like, honestly,
contribute without promoting.
You're not asking for people to come through, right? All you're doing is looking to create a meaningful interaction between you and someone else, and trusting that the natural curiosity in others will lead them down the rabbit hole. And your job is just to have a profile that is really quick. Like I would say that the most important real estate anybody has online today is their social media bio. So we need to know, in as long as it takes us to read that bio, what kind of music you make, and do people like me like things like this, right? And so if your profile is optimized for your ideal fan, and you're spending time going out there adding valuable communication and conversation to other creators' content, then when that fan gets that comment from you, they're going to come through. And it can be as simple as like, we did one the other day for a client who they make like ambient music, that part of their like fan avatar, like people who like to read books. So like we go and find authors like John Green, who wrote like A Fault in Our Stars and a bunch of other ones. And John Green's very active on social media.
And also has awesome history videos I use in my classroom.
Yes.
So shout out to John Green.
John Green is amazing. And John posted some video about tuberculosis, as one does. John Green is like, if you haven't followed John Green, he's almost always talking about how ridiculous it is that we have, like, tuberculosis is still around when we could cure it.
Yeah.
And we just had an account comment, thank you for using your platform for this. Not even all that meaningful. And that one still is like 3,000 or 4,000 likes, because people will come through and go, well, I wanted to say that, but somebody already said it. I'm not going to say the same thing twice. I'm going to like this comment. And all that does is continue to raise that comment's popularity within the way those comments are displayed by Instagram. And you're getting your brand out there more. And again, people will be naturally curious. Who is this person? Right? Not every comment you drop is going to get a ton of likes and replies and all that stuff. Not every post you make is going to be the thing that takes you to go viral. But you're out there every day dropping, like some of these, that Texas bee work comment, it took 3 minutes one day, and for months. And as that post continues to go viral, that comment continues to get served to new potential fans. And so if you're insightful about the targets that you give yourself for this engagement strategy, every day you're out there investing a little bit of time into building your brand and hoping that the algorithm, you've picked other creators that are going viral, and the algorithm is continuing to deliver your brand out there for you for $0. It's a free marketing strategy that all it requires from you is to just care about other people a little bit, and to engage with them in a kind and meaningful way. You don't have to say, by the way, follow my band.
Yeah.
By the way, come to our show. You do have to say interesting things that, because ultimately your fans for your music, regardless of what genre you are, they're fans of other things than music, right? And so as people, we are tribalistic in nature, right? We want to answer this question of, do people like us like things like this? And so your job is to figure out what are the things that your people like, whether it is other bands or it's, I think a slept on one is comedians. I think a lot of people are doing like meme accounts are big, but go out there and interact with the kind of content that your ideal fans are already interacting with and add value to those other communities and do it in a way that, like, the way that we encourage people to do it is you favorite usually 30 to 100 accounts. And then when you log into Instagram, if you tap that Instagram icon and sort your newsfeed by favorites, now you're going to see all the posts from those accounts in chronological order, which is so helpful because otherwise it's just algorithmic newsfeed through there. So we're going to organize these posts in most recent to oldest, newest to oldest. And we're just going to scroll through them and add value to these comment sections until I reach content I've already engaged with. And then I'm done for the day. But you do that every day. Like, take 30 to 60 minutes every day. And it is impossible. Like, we've not seen somebody do this strategy for at least 90 days and not seen meaningful growth to their committed fan members, to their audience.
So I have so many questions following up on this. Question number one, you said we should know pretty quickly after looking at your bio what kind of music you make, who it's for, who's going to like it. How do you see that most effectively being formatted? Should that be complete sentences? Should it be some kind of quip? Should it be very straight to the point, indie acoustic folk for people who love the Avett Brothers? Or, like, how do you see formatting of the bio working the best right now?
All of the above. I think the frustrating thing is, for a lot of people, is they want a specific answer to this question. And there's just so many, there's so many different ways that you could do it. Could you do it just genre only? Sure. That's the easy way, right? You just put, I make, Texas indie, lo-fi, hip hop beats. Cool. Great. You could do it. What are the kind of people that you make the music for? So you could say, like, I make insert genre for people who like blank, right? We had one, I'm going to pull his bio up. We made one for a guy recently, if my internet will be faster. He kind of makes two kinds of songs, love songs and songs for people who just got dumped. And so his thing is serving uppers and downers for the lovers and losers.
Okay.
Right. So it's up to you. You get to be creative, but it's your elevator pitch. We don't care. Like, I don't care if you won an award. I don't care if you won a Dove Award or a Grammy Award. That's not the place to put that. Place to put that is maybe in your highlight section or something like that. But we want to know what kind of music you make and because ultimately, like, I think the best advice here is there are two things. Number one is the bio is keyword indexed. So Instagram, TikTok, these are not social media platforms the way that we think of them traditionally. Like, this is not MySpace. These are search engines, and they are indexing creators and accounts and content based on keywords. So use keywords in your bio that your ideal fans would probably be searching for, that you could be discovered on. So he wants to, uppers and downers, lovers and losers. Those were the types of people that he wants to find him, that are looking for, I'm looking for a love song. I'm looking for songs about, losing love. So he sewed that into his bio. You could just do your genre. That's obviously a real, like, especially if you have a very specific genre, you can put that in there, because then that's going to get indexed by Instagram. And when people search for your genre, your profile is going to be relevant to that search result and likely to be served in that, if that makes sense. So really think through these things. Like, there's an SEO component here, but ultimately do what people like, right? Like, don't work harder at trying to trick the algorithm to indexing you than you are trying to get people to understand very quickly, who the heck are you? Why do I care? Am I in the right place? Right? Again, to go back to that Donald Miller thing, like they're the main character in their own story.
Hmm.
Their prefrontal cortex, that part of their brain is just trying to save calories. And if they come across an equation they can't solve very easily, they're just going to keep swiping.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just gone. So I wouldn't say be clever. It's kind of like driving, right? Like, you want to be predictable. That's really what you're trying to do when you're driving safely. When you're writing your bio, be predictable. I want to know what I'm signing up for if I hit that follow button. And so forecast that. What do you do? Who are you for? And keep in the back of your mind that this is all searchable stuff. And if you can put keywords in there, do it. But I would say the simpler the better, because there's so much information and so much going on today that the more complicated and nuanced you get with it, the less people you're going to catch with it.
So with, this is a little bit more technical of a question, but with Instagram, because I'm just now starting to learn more about Instagram and stuff like that, can you be penalized like you are on Google ranking for basically spamming of keywords? So if you put all the keywords in your bio, can you actually be penalized for that as far as ranking goes?
Yeah, that one, there's not a ton of like hard. Instagram's pretty good about just showing their cards face up and saying whether or not you're going to be penalized. They're very, very quick to like, my advice is that it is more work to try and game the system than it is to just like
the right way,
do it the right way in the first place. You're always playing cat and mouse. The algorithm ultimately is designed to do what people like. So if you just do what people like, the algorithm is always going to love you, whether it's the content that you're posting or the way that you framed your bio. You have I think you have like 500 characters in your bio. So you are limited, but you can put hashtags in there if you want to. Hashtags are a little bit controversial right now. Some people are saying they're dead. Some people are saying they're not.
Because Threads isn't even allowing you to use them, correct?
Threads just put hashtags in last week.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think like Instagram themselves have said that hashtags are being sunset. But I don't think that they're going away, and I don't think they're ever going to take them off the platform. We just have to remember the history of the hashtag. Like, I want to say 2013 was the first. They're only 10 years old. They basically were implemented because image recognition and text recognition software just wasn't good. And so these platforms are profitable by serving people content that they want to see. And when they see what they want to see, they spend more time on those platforms. And when they spend more time on those platforms can show them more ads, and then they make more money. And that's really as complicated as it needs to be. And so hashtags are there so that users were incentivized in the early days of Instagram and X, which was Twitter then, like to self-tag their content so that the platforms could better serve valuable content to the right people.
Yeah, search terms.
Yeah, and I don't think that's ever really fully going to go away. Now, Instagram is doing a good job of like reading your caption and using image recognition software and using speech to text in your videos to like think through this and hashtag it for you. But it doesn't mean that it's a perfect system. It'll be good in 5 years, right? But also we have to remember that like people use hashtags all the time, and they're going to continue to use hashtags. So I'm a fan of them. I think on Instagram, you probably only need 3. On TikTok, they really, really, really matter still.
Okay.
That they're a tremendously...
Is that just because of how young the platform is?
Yeah, and I think too, just the way they built their platform. It like when you go to your TikTok profile and you tap on any one of your videos, up in the top, there's a search bar. And if TikTok has figured out what your post is about, that search bar is going to have the keyword that you're indexed for on there. If you don't index for anything, it's just going to be like search or see more content or some generic thing there. So TikTok really just does like to see hashtags be utilized because there is some human element to it where it's like, I think it's been a minute since I've done a deep dive on this. So I'm speaking a little bit out of turn
Mm.
and I'm willing to be corrected if anyone hears differently. But I think they're using a little bit of human input in there
Mm.
in conjunction with AI looking at the content and combing through it as well. And just assuming that AI is going to be wrong. I mean, it's confidently incorrect all the time.
Just like my 4-year-old.
Yeah. Just like every human, right? Like we are all like right now, I may be very incorrect about this, but I'm pretty sure.
You're drawing from your best understanding at the time to
Yeah.
give an output, just like AI tends to do.
Yeah.
You're scraping your experiences. So, going back to the idea of being a good follower and contributing through being a follower, you said choose 30 to 100 somewhere accounts to follow. What's your strategy for deciding who to follow? Am I following popular bands in my genre? Am I following labels? Am I following influencers who have mentioned bands that I like? Like, how do I, as an artist who's trying to build a fan base online, and you're saying, hey, it starts with it
Yeah.
getting involved in coming here, have 30 to 100. How do I decide which 30 to 100 to click to follow?
It depends. Like every answer in marketing is it's going to depend. It depends on what your goals are. It depends on like we had a band that wrote a bunch of love songs and so they went and part of their outbound engagement strategy was a bunch of like all the dating apps was Bumble and Tinder and so on and so forth. The biggest thing you want to be looking for is number 1, are those accounts posting regularly, right? Are you going to have work to do every day? If you're posting big accounts that aren't posting very often, it's not a very effective use of your time,
Mhm.
right? The other thing is, are real people actually commenting on that stuff or is it just bots,
Thoughts.
right? So you want to make sure you're looking for places to engage and interact where real humans are and people are actually watching those and commenting and doing those things. So before you figure out, should it be labels, should it be other bands, should it be other, what should it be? Are they posting all the time and are real people engaging in those comment sections? Because again, if there's no comments on there and they haven't posted in 2 weeks, you can only add 100 people to your favorites on Instagram anyways.
Mhm.
So you don't want to fill it up with a bunch of stuff that's not posting all the time. The other thing is like you really need to stop and think about who your ideal fans are as people and be honest with yourself because nobody makes music for everybody. That's just like there are people out there that don't like pizza and ice cream and they're wrong, but they're out there. And so there are going to be people that don't like your music that aren't your ideal fans. So you need to tell yourself the truth
Mm.
about, if you say I make music for people who are 18 to 55, like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Right. So get really specific with like, who'd you write these songs for? And also like like at the end of the day too, your music and your account, like people aren't following you. They're feeling you. They're coming for that feeling they get when they interact with you. What is that feeling? And can you find other accounts that also create that same feeling?
Mm.
And it might be meme accounts. You pick a niche, there's meme accounts for it, right? It might be other creators that are, just active creators that you just like, right? Like think about what you're going to have to spend your time on this stuff every single day.
Mm.
So also think about like, where do I want to spend my time on the internet and try to find the Venn diagram between where you want to spend your time on the internet and where your fans might be. It might be a circle.
Mhm.
It might be a thumbnail, but the reality is it's going to be different for every single artist. It may just be other bands. It's probably not just other bands.
Mm.
It's probably like we did a campaign and a little bit of a data study. We used a tool called SparkToro. We really like SparkToro. It's a market research tool that you can plug in social media profiles and websites and get insights and understanding about their following.
Mhm.
And so we were doing this with basically all of the living members of Tom Petty's Heartbreakers got back together and made a band. They're called the Speaker Wars, and they're awesome.
Yeah, like
Mm.
I saw like Mike Campbell and those guys are
Yeah.
touring with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so early on, as they were coming back, we're starting to figure out what their outbound engagement is going to be. And so we plugged in Tom Petty into this Spark Toro thing, and it turns out all of the Tom Petty fans love Jim Gaffigan. And Jim's really active on social.
And Hot Pockets, you know.
And Hot Pockets. And so, like, we can use Spark Toro. We can look at other successful artists in your genre and kind of look at, well, what other accounts other than, you know, low-hanging fruit? If we say Taylor Swift, what accounts are Taylor Swift's fans also interacting with? It's probably going to be Target.
Travis Kelce.
It's going to NFL memes. It's going to be Hearth and Home, Chip and Joanna Gaines. Like, we're going to start to see a pretty clear picture. And then you can go, okay, well, if I want to be on tour with Taylor Swift and they've got this massive audience, where else are her fans already hanging out? You can use a tool like Spark Toro and do this. The cheap way to do this is because there's a free way to do all of this.
I was going to ask you if that's a free tool or a paid tool.
It is a free tool. You get I think you get 25 searches a month or something, and they restrict kind of how much of that data you get to see. I think it's 150 a month. We deploy it selectively. Like, I don't have an ongoing monthly membership. It's a tool that I go and turn on when I need it. Because the free way to do it is just to go to Taylor Swift's account and look at all the people that are following her and just look at their accounts. Go, like, become eternally curious and go look at the people that are following that account. If they've got public profiles, who are they following? What words are in their bio? When they post on their page, what are they posting about? Is it pictures of their cats and dogs? Are they posting political memes? What are they doing on their social medias? And start to study the fans of other bands. Everything you want to know is already just sitting out there in the open. You've just got to be willing to go out there and collect that information and then use it to create your best guess, because there's no magic 8-ball. There's no crystal ball that you can look into to like tell the future. We're just going to trial and error. So a lot of times with this is what we call our outbound engagement strategy. We'll do a lot of research and we'll commit to it for 90 days. And at 30-day intervals, we're just going back and going, am I giving enough, like, is there enough content a day for me to engage with? And it's like, okay, if yes, then let's stay the course. If no, then let's go into a new round of search and destroy. And we'll take out the ones that aren't posting enough and we'll add the new ones in that we think are. And then for another 30 days. And then we'll assess again at 30 days. And then we'll assess again at 30 days. And at the end of the 90 days, you should be in a good rhythm. But it is going to be this constant pattern of like, we're going to put together as much research as we can to make an educated guess. We're going to make an educated guess and we're going to stick to that plan for an uncommonly long period of time. The biggest number one advice I can give to anybody trying to figure out social media is once is not a sample size, right? You've got to do something a lot to build a sample size of data to determine whether or not it's working. And 30 days is it's a pretty small sample size, to be honest. But if you want to be aggressive and continuing to like make progress, 30 days is pretty ample at the same time.
Yeah, I know for like websites, they say, don't judge your SEO, your ranking strategies for like 3 months to see if you're making any movement.
Yeah, there's no like, marketing is a lot of hard work and then being very unsure whether or not it was worth it until very suddenly. Like, we talked Jake and Shelby, we started in January with them and it was very light coaching and like, here's a plan, go off and do this thing. January of 22, they started at 0 followers. January to June, they had 724 followers and 134 posts. And it took them 134 posts and 6 months to figure out what kind of, like, what's the magic thing that they can make that they can make on a regular basis, they like to make, and that people like to see. And so then from June to August, they went to 20,000 followers, 700 to 20,000 followers. And then from August to December, they went to 500,000 on Instagram.
Wow.
Because we're in this process of like, what's working, what's not working. Let's try a bunch of everything. So when you're trying to find this outbound engagement thing, just pick, right? Do your best to pick where you think your people are hanging out online the most. And then after 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, stop and assess. Have I really picked up followers from this? Am I logging into Instagram every day and having nothing else to comment on? Okay, cool. Another great way to do it is to use the Explore newsfeed. Like, I think that if you're trying to grow your band on social media, if you have a personal need to go on social media and watch memes, engage with reels, do all that stuff, great. Have a separate account. Your band page is now a business asset. And you can use the Discover newsfeed to find you other bands, other content creators, other accounts to engage with by going into that Discover newsfeed and only interacting with content that you think your ideal fans would also like to be interacting with. Because it's a machine learning platform. So it's like, if I go in there and I really like watching Domino Rally and like dog videos and stuff with my kids. We'll sit down, we watch Instagram. We want to watch like somebody who set up a massive domino thing, knock it over. That's so not helpful for me finding other creators. And so I have a separate account where my kids and I just watch goofy stuff on Instagram. And that Discover newsfeed brings me an endless supply of exactly what I want, because that is what that page is designed to do. So if you want to be finding other accounts that are creating content on a regular basis, that have engaged audiences, then go into the Discover newsfeed and look for it. And anything that is not exactly that, you tap the 3 dots in the right corner and you say, I'm not interested. And you give it positive feedback by dropping comments and interacting with stuff that aligns with your audience you're trying to attract. And you give it negative feedback by telling it not to send you stuff that doesn't do that. And after about a week or two of really like daily teaching your Discover newsfeed to go find you new stuff, it's going to start bringing you the most amazing things that you can fold into that outbound engagement strategy. And so you can use Instagram itself as the search tool, but you're going to have to train it and be disciplined to, like, if you're really into golf or you're really into woodworking, don't do that stuff on your band's profile. Do it somewhere else.
Because it's going to throw off the algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah. And Instagram's, all these platforms, whether it's Spotify or Netflix or whatever, they use something called collaborative filtering. Have a great day Google searching that. There's so much to learn about collaborative filtering. They're going to look at the kind of content that you're interacting with to determine what kind of people get served the content you're posting. Right? So you have to keep that in mind, that everything you do online says something to the platform about who is going to be friends and do cool things with you. So if your bass player in the band is also your social media manager and posting all that stuff, and they're looking at, no shame to your bass player, they're looking at woodworking videos all the time on there, your band's content may just be getting served to dudes who play bass that like woodworking, which might be a total vibe, right?
The riches are in the niches. So,
Well, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's just important to be aware of that, of like what you're doing on your account, from what, if you really want to grow, then you need to use these tools like the superpowers that they are. And you need to, number one, be interacting with other people. None of this posting and ghosting stuff, and then being confused why no one found your band, right? And then the other thing is, what you interact with determines who you interact with from an organic reach standpoint as well. And these can all be fixed, right? There's no, unless you've had some sort of like fake news account that gets punished for, posting misinformation. By and large, if you've got an inactive account if you've got, confusing SEO, all of this stuff can be worked out. I'm not beyond starting brand new accounts for people. Sometimes that is the best thing to do, but it's almost always the last thing that you should try. And just being intentional with who you're interacting with and how you're teaching the Discover newsfeed to bring you new content, that's going to do so much to help you get those new fans and followers in.
That's awesome. Man, Drew, I could talk to you for hours. You're so insightful. I want to value your time. Just a couple like rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Because hopefully you had a good time. We can come back and
I would like to come back is what I would like to, I'll say that now.
Cool. Because it seems like kind of the theme of this episode has been growing your following by being a follower. But I do want to just rapid fire ask you a question about the content creation side.
Yeah.
Because the last couple guests I've had and several people in the industry I've talked to have said, be very, very particular about what you're willing to put up online because it reflects your brand, and especially your early posts, make sure they're all high quality, make sure that they look great. Where you have videos on your account, I loved it. You're like pushing a cart through this grocery store, grabbing a bag of Doritos, and you're like, everything is content, everything.
It is.
So what's the reality in what you're seeing as somebody actively working in the field? Should we be very particular about what we're putting out there? Or is everything truly content that needs to see the light of day?
It depends. I would say that more things are content than people realize. And it's really important to understand that what I post to my stories, that nurtures my existing followers, right? Whatever I post to my stories, I'm not really going to get a new follower because of something I posted to my stories. I'm going to get new followers because of something I most likely post to Reels, or if I've got some sort of like informative carousel or something that's, like short form video is almost always going to be how I get new fans. That being said, we look at like Casey Neistat, who's like a very big YouTuber. Casey's really big on posting, high quality vlog videos, usually shot with DSLR. And they're honestly, if you haven't watched some of Casey's vlogs, go watch them. He's a masterful storyteller, but he got one of his first videos to get over 100 million views this last year in 23, shot on his iPhone because it was just a compelling story. And it just happened. He was just on the street and he stepped on a part of the sidewalk in New York City that fell and exposed this huge hole that was really dangerous. And it was like this viral moment. And it's like thinking that a nicer guitar is going to make you a nicer guitar player. It's just not true. Right. And so ultimately, people are really, really tired of being marketed to. And so the best marketing, the best ads, they don't feel like ads. So when people are like, I'm going to get nicer gear, I'm going to get better equipment, and we're just going to put up really, really sexy videos that are so cool, that might attract some people, but ultimately people like the tagline for my agency is let's be friends and do cool things because that is what marketing is. It is people want to be friends and they want to do cool things. So post your cool music video, right? But also I want to know, like, we kind of have a 70-20-10 rule where 70% of your content should be about your music, right? It should be this song or this mood or this video or this thing. And 20% of your content should just be about who you are as an artist, right? What's your favorite breakfast cereal? Where do you get your eggs? Whatever, just anything. And then 10% should be direct sales. Like buy my merch, stream my song, follow my playlist, check out my YouTube channel, do the thing. And if you run on a 70-20-10 rule model and you post 30 things a month, then you're going to be getting good growth over time. But for the most part, that means you're focusing on this top of funnel content where total strangers could come across a piece of content and enjoy seeing it. It doesn't, like, at the end of the day, like, cool's only cool as long as cool is cool. So if you're just trying to be cool all the time, eventually it's irrelevant. I would say shoot from the hip. Don't worry about it.
So following that 70-20-10, so 70% me performing songs or talking about songs or live videos or whatever behind the scenes. 20% random me brushing my teeth and
Memes,
memes,
whatever.
and
Doesn't matter.
10%, hey, my new album's coming out, or I'm playing at such and such venue this weekend. Tickets are on sale here. So that's how you're laying out that model.
Yeah.
Okay.
If people need a framework,
Mm.
right? That we found that to be really helpful. I cannot stress enough that like marketing is a lot like music theory. There are tons of rules. And if you understand what those rules are, you can break them whenever you want.
Yeah.
Right.
As Victor would say, there's no wrong notes. There's only groove and context. So
Yes.
yeah. Last question before we wrap up. I like asking this to every guest. Since this show is primarily about live music and the live music industry, what is the most significant concert you've ever been to in your life? The one that's had the greatest impact on you?
Honestly, I went and saw Childish Gambino
Mm.
at Bridgestone Arena, and it was just like it's between that and I also went and saw Blink-182 recently, which was like 13-year-old me was enthralled.
Reliving the childhood.
Yeah, but no, I really liked, the Childish Gambino stuff. It was on his This Is America album.
Mm.
It was just really poignant, and the performance was incredible, and like all of it was just a really impactful story throughout the whole process. And it was visually and like musically was awesome.
Nice. I saw him years ago at, pretty sure it was Hangout Music Fest, and he had a broken leg and
Oh,
had a
yeah.
huge cast on, but still put on a great show at like 2 in the afternoon. Awesome. Drew, you are such a wealth of knowledge. You're such a cool guy. Even if you weren't on the show, I just want to talk to you more. Let's be friends and do cool things together.
I like that.
So if somebody wants to find out more about you, to learn more about Brddg, where can they find you and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm usually on Instagram at It's Drew Small, and you can check out our website. It's just brddg.co, and I am not too often around Threads as well. I'm not much of a tweeter these days, but you can find me on Threads. But usually, you can just hit me up on Instagram. I'm there a lot.
Awesome. We'll be sure to link that up in the show notes as well. Drew, thank you so much. And until next time, appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Book Your Band podcast. If you enjoyed the show, I would sincerely appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and share the show with some of your friends. To stay informed on upcoming episodes, be sure to sign up for the Book Your Band mailing list and also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. All those links are available at www.bookyourbandpodcast.com.